Hello and welcome by this first episode of Dutch Culture TV Talks in collaboration with the Boekman Foundation. My name is Jimmy-Pierre de Graaf. I'm your moderator for today and we're going to talk about sustainability in relation to internationalization. The starting point of this episode was the latest edition of the Boekman magazine, which was about sustainability in the Dutch cultural sector. And in this program, we're trying to make some kind of jump to the internationalization working practice of different artists. I am a creative producer, musician, and also researcher for different Amsterdam-based companies. And I'm very interested in how sustainability, international work practice, collaboration, and social impacts are like intervene with each other. And with that kind of mindset, I'm going to ask different questions to our guests. I would like to introduce as first guest for today, Thijs Biersteker. He's sitting next to me. Welcome, Thijs. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good to hear. You're called like an ecological artist, and you're like traveling all over the world with your work to create some kind of awareness and also create ecological art.
So my name is Thijs Biersteker, and I work together with scientists and researchers to create environmental art pieces that talk about the important issues of today: the climate change, plastic pollution, air pollution, and basically everything that's on the tipping point in these days.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do in my studio, together with all the people I work with,
Mm-hmm.
is try to do that in the most sustainable way and in the most environmental friendly way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a challenge, of course, because there's a duality in how do you make impact.
Mm-hmm.
And how you talk about impact and what's your personal impact.
Yeah,
and that's through studio.
Cool. We're going to talk later more about the impact, but as you described, you have talking about pollution and all those kind of ecological topics. How did that become?
Well, I think when art as a function needs to reflect society, and if there's one challenge of today, I think that is basically solving climate change, climate crisis, and being aware of that. And the best practice that there is nature, how it's interconnected, how it works together, how it's woven together, and how there's a structural balance everywhere. So we have the best example here, and we know what we're doing wrong. And there's a big scientific gap between that. And there's a big emotional gap between human beings and the facts about climate change. So I think art has this magical, mystical place where they all merge together, and where you can match the facts about climate change and the emotions about how we resonate with nature. And I try to bring those together in my practice in a way that people connect to nature, they understand it, but they always get a higher message about collaboration, about a symbiotic society, and how basically that will translate back to us as human beings.
Cool. And maybe we could see a short video of your work so we can see how this story became art.
I think a good example of sustainability in my practice is a work that we launched last year at Foundation Cartier in the show Nous les Arabes. And what we did there is we connected a digital art piece to the living trees outside in the museum in their garden. And together with Stefano Mancuso, a plant neuroscientist in Florence, and the TU Delft, in Delft, in the Netherlands, we worked on a system where we could extract data from living trees and showed how they are reacting on climate change at that moment. So basically a tree grows a ring every year, and as a ring is generated, you can read how the environmental impact is. So basically, when you cut down a tree, which is not the purpose of this whole artwork, of course, but if you would cut it down, you could see basically a history book of climate changes throughout the years. And we sped up this process, and we created a system where you can generate these tree rings based on the environmental impact that was happening there in Paris, but then instead of every year, we created a tree ring every second. And that's what you see here next to the trees. And we did the production of that in the most sustainable way possible with a big museum that also was calculating their environmental impact and their CO2. So basically, from a conceptual point of view to an executional level, we try to find the best balance between the impact.
And I think you've managed that with this project, so it looks very interesting. So this is a good example how like ecological perspective or mindset is defined in your work. Could you tell us more about what internationalization or like making this on an international level added some kind of value to your work?
The goal of my work is to create awareness around the topics. So if my work doesn't travel, it doesn't reach its full potential, which also includes the impact it will have. So it's always hard to find a balance between how much impact are we going to make with this show or with the talk that I'm giving or with the work that we're building, and how much basically resources from planet Earth we're using. So that balance, we haven't found the right solution yet, but we try to have the visitor amount, the importance of the visitors, and the location. So if the location is in Brazil, when we talk about deforestation with one of our works, like then the impact is hyper relevant. So that is something we agreed to ship a work towards Brazil.
Yeah, and did you also did the tipping point in a way felt the wrong way? Did you have some kind of experience with that? Because I can imagine it's like a lifelong, challenging learning process.
I think you have to be aware when you make awareness art about the partners that you partner up with. So my goal is to create reach around these topics. And you have to dive into who's paying for the work and will that reflect on your work as well. So that's always a tricky part. Like, where does the money come from? But for a good example, when we created a work about ocean plastics and the uses of plastics, which is basically oil, and we could have the chance to move that towards, I think it was Abu Dhabi, which is an oil state. I think there's, next to the sarcasm, which I like, there's also this place where you can make hyper impact on a local level, and you make a bigger splash. So for me, that's something that I really like to take in account when deploying a work towards a country like that.
Yeah, nice. Maybe it's interesting to discuss about the size of your projects and your visibility as an artist, because in the sustainability discussion, it's also about less is more. So do smaller projects in a regional scale. That is also a way to be sustainable. But I think your career is now like growing, you have bigger projects, bigger partners. How do you look at that development of your career?
That's exactly the challenge right now. Like, I think the basic question we have to ask ourselves with every work is it worth it? And as the shows grow bigger, the visitors grow bigger, the works grow bigger, means the impact will probably grow bigger. So that's my justification. It doesn't say that doesn't keep me up at night, because it's one of the things that we take in calculation with everybody who works with us in the studio. The tricky part is how can you basically set all the other parameters in a way that it's beneficial for the planet and for the audience.
And you also said, because you're like getting a bigger artist, you can also make you can sharpen your criteria. You said like, I'm going to demand more from the partners I work with. Could you give some examples you're like demanding to your...
Well, I think the inspiration came from the music scene where you're from as well, is that certain artists won't perform if the whole festival is not vegan.
That's how it works.
That's how we roll. So that's the moment where we can set regulations, or where we can set parameters. And I think one of the examples is there's a new museum here, it's called Next Museum, where we shape the values together while the museum was starting up, which is really powerful. And I think now in every contract, what we try to avoid, every agreement we have with the museum, we take in account the way that we want the place that we want. So there needs to be recycled plastic containers available for the crew during build-up, because build-up is really pollutive and they throw away a lot of stuff. We want to use no bottled water. Like we start to, like, we're not that powerful yet, but we're pushing that in contract base that we don't want pollutive elements that are not necessary. On a production level, which is mainly my concern, is where does it come from? How does it? How much energy does it use? Like energy efficiency is something that's optimized in nature, but not in the art world. And then in the end, which is a big part of my practice as well, because the end in nature, everything basically gets back to its origin. And talking about recycling and life cycle analysis, which is really important into our field. Like I'm not under the assumption that my work will stand 100, 200, 300 years, and it would be great. But in the end, let's be realistic. If I talk about deforestation and we move the other way, my work is irrelevant, which is great because it did its job for a part. So what we have in all our installations is we have QR code, which leads to a material passport. So everybody who is dismantling it, they can scan it, they get the complete breakdown of every element that we used, how much is recyclable, where it's from, and what you can do with it, and what the current value is. So this way, the next generations, no matter who, they know what stuff has been put in, and they know how they can recycle it.
And then it became some kind of routing system. You know where everything is coming from and what is the story about it. So maybe we should like root it our processes more, so we know what the value is of everything we do.
I think so. In the beginning, you make material choices. In the end, we have the material passport where you can actually find and how can you recycle it again.
Thank you, Thijs, for telling us these stories and your insights. We're now going to meet Pauline from United Cowboys, and she will tell us more about her work practice. And after that, we will come together again in a panel conversation. She's the artistic director of the United Cowboys. At this moment, she is in Germany working on a new piece in the City Theater in Kassel, if I'm right. United Cowboys is based in Eindhoven. I'm very curious about their international working practice. How do they try to be sustainable in touring, in producing, in building collaborations? So please, hi Pauline, how are you doing over there?
I'm fine over here. I'm in the cantina of this Staatstheater here. Upstairs they are warming up before rehearsal. We are going to be here till half of July, and premiere is September 26th of the performance called Reminiscent Swan Lake. Yes, it is about the Swan Lake Ballet. But they invited us especially because we are going to make a sort of bridge between tradition and experiment, because they renewed the whole team here, the new director dance, Torsten Teubel, and a new dance ensemble and we are very happy and privileged to work with beautiful dancers. So cool. I'm fine here in the cantina.
Very good. And the performance is going to premiere in a couple of weeks then?
No, September 26th is the opening of the whole season and the full presentation of this new director. And there are already plans to bring the performance also to Holland, for instance, or other places like in Eindhoven. The Park Theater is our theater where we always premiere. So I think it's going to be a super, super exciting production with this new ballet ensemble and then our Cowboys influences. We have a good time.
Looking forward to it. Could you, if I'm right, you bring a video with you, and could you show the video and try to introduce United Cowboys in that way and tell us?
Hello, we are Maarten van der Put and Pauline Roelants, the two artistic directors of United Cowboys. We are a dance and performance company from Eindhoven in the Netherlands. We also have an art house in the center of the city. That's actually where we are now. That's the place where we create our work, but also give opportunity to other artists to create work, to do research and to present it. Over the last 10 to 12 years, we have been performing all over Europe, in France and in Italy, in Spain, in Czech Republic, in Poland, in Bulgaria, in Belgium, and also in Germany with clay pressure. Well, as you can see, the film is sort of speaking for itself. We are a very visual and physical company. I love to see the dancers every time I see this kind of movies, especially now I'm not there and we haven't seen them for a very long time because of all the strange times we have behind us now. So physical, visual, and always sort of combining dancers and performers and other artists together, bring them together and to start dialogues and conversations.
Yeah, it has quite an interdisciplinary approach, or maybe you could say transdisciplinary approach. As we can see in the overview, United Cowboys has been around for a long time. You started from a small project and now you're like an established company based in Eindhoven with an extensive international work practice. As I could read in your vision and mission statement, the concept of internationalization, collaboration, sustainability are like deeply anchored in the mission and in the vision. Could you explain to us what are the values of these concepts for your organization and how did they become the core of how you work?
Yeah, it's quite a story, but if you exist as long as United Cowboys exist. So I try to keep it a little bit bonded and so our two big mottos are encouraging artistic risk and questioning theatrical conventions. And that's sort of the start to reach out and to look out for other parties and other people and artists or organizations that are also always looking for the unknown. So we're not looking for the things we already know, we always look for the things beyond that. That's how we started to do international performances. But after a certain time, we thought it was not so interesting anymore to only go for buying and selling performances. You know, you go somewhere, you perform, you go home, and actually, to make it a little bit blunt, you don't know where you were because it's another theater, another festival. You don't see so much about other things. So then we had a concept that was called the Nude Study Menu. It consists now of 16 performances. Martin van der Put, other cowboy, he created them with different dancers and performers. And we approached places to make a menu of it. You know, there are 16 now, so you can literally say, okay, I would like to have number 5, 8, and like in the Chinese restaurant, you know, you order.
Yeah.
But of course, we manipulate because we think what could be best. And this is how the conversations started to be more about how we both can contribute to a broader context than only performing at certain places. So it's, you know, more about where you go, you know, more about the needs in the places, but also in this broader thing. And I think in these times, it's super interesting, but also super important to connect.
You say that like sustainability is in your definition more about changing a mindset. Is it like another way of thinking and reaching out to people?
Yeah, and from both sides, you know, as a performer and as a spectator. So that's why we create this biotopes kind of duration piece, as you saw in the video. It's not a nature biotop, it's an artificial world we create in collaboration and saying also of the places where we build them. And there we make new memories and new impact and new content with local artists and with cowboys.
You decided to become more sustainable, to get different kind of collaborations. In how do you like make your international partners or your international audience contribute to that goal? How do you reach out to them, or how do you communicate in contract wise? I don't know. What is like how is that discussion going on then?
We went to meet directors or programmers to talk about the cultural situation. So you have another talk. It's not about, okay, what's the title, how long, what's the price? It's about what do we need? What could we contribute to your occasion, festival or thing? So that's a discussion and that's a meeting and an encounter that's not only in the momentum, it goes on. You keep this conversation going on and you keep each other updated. Before Corona, of course, a lot alive, we went there. And now we started a sort of digital art house, besides our art house in Eindhoven, a digital art house to make a sort of platform to make this communication also start on another level.
So could you say that to become sustainable or creating a sustainable relationship with your audience or programmers, do you need to be like invested in the regional development? Do you need to be there for a longer time? Is that what you're also saying there?
Yeah, and especially that you need to be updated about it one way or the other, and that you combine your own work and your own point of view with the local art community, because I think then you open up to go on this road together. Yeah, so it's not about to achieve sustainability. It's a way of being. That's why I say it's a method. Yeah. And I think if we manage to change that mentality in a broader sense, I think then art can just stay art. We don't need to be the social or the people that have that as topic and goal. No, because it goes on. Art goes always on. So we don't. United Cowboys doesn't take it as a topic, but as a method and a way of working and actually living also.
Yeah, sustainability as a way of being. We keep that in mind. Another question I want to ask you, because United Cowboys aims to make an impact in collaboration with local makers, artists, and performers and organizations. And you do this like by giving masterclasses, or you initiate new international collaborations. But there seems to be some kind of internal contradiction between making a local impact, but also like traveling around the world. If we take a look at sustainability in an ecological way, how do you relate to that? How does that come back in your work practice or in your way of thinking?
Yeah, so there on the one hand, that's that we stay longer in certain regions or areas to give workshops and to work with artists. So then we don't take the whole company and our dancers along, but we create an atmosphere and a place to do research on the places. That's one. Combined with this, again, digital art house, where we create a platform so you have another way of meeting each other. Also in artistic sense, we want to expand it that there also can be like artistic work in the digital art house, so you create community there. And the co-creation. So it's not about the whole Cowboys transported, but we have local artists and Cowboys coming together. So then the spread of the work is also better, but you concentrate your working things more to one place. And also that you take along even like scenery parts, or what I said, dances along, or everything.
Thank you, Pauline, for answering these questions. I'm now going to ask Thijs back, and we will have a conversation with the three of us. Welcome back. We are here back now with Thijs and Pauline, and we're going to look at their best practices. We start with Pauline, and she did a work in Sofia, Bulgaria. And maybe you can tell us something about it, and then we can take a look at the video.
Yes, sure. So best practice in that sense that it's one of the outcomes of this whole concept for new development, where we created those biotopes, duration pieces, where we also involved local artists. So in that sense, you know, taking along elements, parts from one place to the other and building up, so not ending things, but continue thinking in processes and only in results, is the sort of core of these biotopes. And Sofia is a very nice example because there are half involved dancers and performers from Bulgaria and from Holland. We stayed there for a longer time, and it resulted in that in October we are going to open their brand new cultural house in the park of Sofia with a lot of spaces, resident places and everything. And there we also involved the region and the audience in the project. So that's a good example for how things can grow in what we said about this reach and impact in a quality kind of sense, that you spread out, you reach out, more people involved, and you have a community that on the part we take it along to other places, but there's also a little plant and things that are still there and can be developed there. So I think that's a very nice example of sustainable working and leaving things behind that are valuable for the rest of the artists, the developments in the regions where we work.
Thank you, Pauline, for the slideshow. Could you tell us maybe something about the sort of dilemma you had to overcome to make this a good practice?
Dilemma, yeah, of course, there's always a dilemma. How much traveling do you do? What do you take along? Is it good to transport everything? And the nice thing here also was that the ACT people from the festival and the institution, they were thinking along, because we did a sort of hoping to do no waste things. So, for example, they sent a truck that was just transporting from Bulgaria, I think, to Belgium, and they sent him to our art house to load our whole scenery and take it to Bulgaria, and the same way back. So we were thinking about how to do the things practically sustainable in practical sense. And I sense that in these times there are a lot of people and institutions and artists that are busy with that, and then we can come to this mentality change, I think.
Thank you. Do you recognize this kind of dilemmas?
I think with traveling and transporting, it's always a hassle, and I think there are being new startups are coming that you can check how much free space there is in the truck. So you know, for transport, like they're starting to get practical solutions to those things. I really like where that part is going.
I'm looking forward to that too. Yeah. So let's take a look to your best practice or example you brought with you.
What you're seeing is E-Continuum, and E-Continuum is a work that talks about how trees are talking on the ground and how they're communicating. And based on this, we work together with the biologists in Italy for a museum that's just opening in Amsterdam, and in a work that has never been produced before. So in terms of the best practice, I think this was the way in the COVID era that we could reshape and rethink how we produce our work. So we don't travel all the way from Italy to discuss with scientists. I think by Zoom, we now have a new museum that hasn't had their values locked in terms of sustainability. So we actually put down in the contract that we wanted the work to be transport sustainable, that it would be durable, and that we would have basically a vegan, plastic-free space to put the work on. Because that part, the building up of the museum is always creating a lot of and unnecessary trash because of the haste that is being put into putting a show together. And this work itself, the Continuum, got a collaboration between the scientists in Florence, the sensor builders in Switzerland, us here in Amsterdam, and building a show that will travel basically further. So we're figuring out how can we make this efficient as possible. And once we build this digital works, because it uses sensors, computers, light AI systems, and projectors, when it all came together, we did a quick assessment of the energy use of the work, so we can also see if it's worth deploying so much calculation power to the work, and if we can make it more efficient. So that's what we did. So in a nutshell, we good practice because we was shaping its values, we were rethinking every value because of the COVID era, and in the third part, it was a work that we could finally create in a way that we wanted, because we found the whole work is 3D printed out of recycled PET bottles, and then shaped by hand for weeks and weeks in a row. But it was the first time that everything could be done in the Netherlands with the techniques, with the crew, and we could control every parameter. So that's what we're now deploying in every other show we're doing.
Cool. And were you like discovering those steps, or were you like unfolding those dilemmas along the way, or did you, before the project, you thought like, okay, this could be all the dilemmas, how can we tackle them? Or how did you like discover those dilemmas or those questions?
You know, we've done a lot of shows internationally, and it's always hard when you're not big enough as an artist, and when you're in that tipping point where you can set the values of how you want to create. I think this was the first time where we could shape this and put it into basically an agreement, set up like agreement rules between us and the museum, what we wanted. So that helped a lot. But that's all foreseen. So I mean, based on my background, the materials, I know what I can use. Based on the experience, we know where the waste streams are coming from in the production process, and into the long term, we know how to dismantle the whole project that it can be recycled.
Nice.
It's a lot of
and it has. You need some kind of experience, or also some kind of confidence to like attach this kind of processes. Nice. A question to both of you, because I can imagine, I'm not sure if you're funded, or are you like using subsidy of the Netherlands or something like that? Okay, but I can imagine, especially for you, Pauline, that in a way the Dutch government, with like traveling a subsidy, or like bringing you with political journeys to some, I don't know what are the options. Could you tell us, would like to see something from the Dutch government, from like the political systems or the business kind of systems that could help us make like sustainability more equitable or more impactful?
I think it's talking about sustainability. I think it's very important that the options there are to connect with other people in other countries and other places, and to have this dialogue have to be a little bit more on the longer term. I think it needs time, and I think it needs a valuable input from both sides. So you know, when we as a country don't take it seriously, how can we expect others to do so? So it's a bit as a company, you know, you have to be taken serious. So you have to have your input for other people to understand the importance of it. And of course, then a country supporting that on a longer term would be very important, I think, in travel sense, but also in the research a lot, in presentation sense, in new ways to put it out in the world, and in ways to invite things back, and to be generous and inviting to other people in other countries and other disciplines, everything on every level.
And what do you think, Thijs, about that?
Well, I think when we're talking about subsidies, when we're talking about shared values, I think the only thing that drives climate change and all the changes that are needed in this society is regulations. And next to the personal impact we have as artists or makers or in any sector connected to the creative industry, I think the overarching thing is when subsidies are applied, there should be rules attached. So, and there should be incentive to make it better. So, for example, there's no subsidy when you have to travel to Paris for flights. Like, it's really like,
simple.
It's really getting some simple rules in place, but also when you're starting, if you need money for your production, the money is only located to have sustainable materials and not throwaways or one-time usage. So it's basically, you get the money if you use sustainable, or you figure it out yourself.
Yeah. So the regulation should be like more specific and more like custom made for sustainability. And I can also imagine that like the budgets, I mean, the budgets are like, you have to be very efficient. So, and sustainability is not per se efficient. It could be more expensive. It's quite expensive. So maybe in a budget way, we should also have some kind of changes from the government.
Maybe it's just, this is normal budget, but if you want to do it a good
exactly,
way,
then you can get more money. Yeah. Do you agree on that, Pauline?
Yes, I agree on all those things. I think it's also important in that sense that in the regulations, or, you know, sometimes it sounds a little bit that in regulations there are always what is not possible or what you're not allowed to do. And I think it's very important to invest also research and things in the possibilities and how to open, how to contribute in a positive sense in regulations, you know, because we are on the way to something beautiful, new, hopefully, and no one of us knows where we are headed. So the opening up and give the possibilities to really invent new things and new ways. Yeah, I agree on that. And then hopefully for the options and not the forbidden things.
Yeah, like what Thijs said, is more about giving an incentive to be sustainable. I think the government should like work more to make sustainable like sexy or like hot or something.
Yes.
Like that. And make sustainable more sexy.
Yeah. A way of being.
Yeah, a way of being, exactly. So I would like to discuss with you about the R ladder. Maybe you know that. Because this is a tool for making and testing sustainable choices. It has like the reduce, reuse, refurbish, recycle, and repurpose. And you can go down the road. And I think refuse is like the highest, and not doing things that create some kind of ecological footprint. And I was like, maybe we could have, I'm interested if you could like add another R. So maybe you have an idea like, no, we should also rethink, or we should also I don't know. So I think I would start with you, Thijs. Could you like add an R to this system from your experience?
I hope regulate is the most powerful tool. If you talk about governance, if you talk about systematic change, regulations are the part that needs to be pressed harder. So if you put the pressure on the individual, you have a big chance of alienating people towards these topics. So I think the moment you say like, hey, there's no alternative because regulations only approve electrical scooters, and you're like, here we go. Yeah. So I think those kind of things will help shift the needle quicker than any other.
And should you say, because a lot of some kind of levels, should you say this should be at the bottom, like this should be the easiest way to start becoming sustainable? Should you say it's more on top of it? Where should you place it?
It's not on a personal level, so it's not you're going to be sustainable. It's going to be
the will,
changing the system, and we vote for that in democracy if that's possible in your country. But that part is essential to making change, and otherwise refuse is the best one.
Okay, cool. So regulate would be added to the R ladder. Pauline, what is your contribution?
Yes, well, our new traject, or concept traject internationally and for ourselves, is called Reshuffle the Deck. So that's about rearranging in all sense, like rearranging your own thoughts and your own input, rearranging the people that are responsible, reshuffle. So reshuffle the whole organization and everything. You know, we have to break things. We have to do it in another way. So reshuffle the deck. You know, the cards are on the table, and we all know how important and how necessary it is. So let's reshuffle the deck and put it in a generous and inviting way, and in a way that we have the dialogue on top of it. And I think that would be a good one to add.
Yeah, I think that's a good one too. Maybe we should start reshuffling and then we re-regulate the system, and then we start with the letter. I think we got something here.
And rebuild and
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. We rethink and redo everything. So I want to thank you both for being here and sharing your experience and your thoughts about internationalization and sustainability. And for the audience, I'm happy that you watched this short DC TV talk. Looking forward for the next time. Thank you for watching and have a good day.